And speaking of trends, Professor, do you notice any trends in dealing with finance, especially now with the unemployment rate being very high in this country? So there are a lot of different things going on. Obviously, a lot of different ways to save, your money.
Well, I think that the trend is towards less spending.
Exactly.
And towards bargain shopping.
Yes.
I think a lot of people need to reevaluate where they're spending and how they're saving and the credit that they have in use.
Yes.
One of the ways that people oftentimes try to save money is either to negotiate with their lenders if they're in trouble, or even if they're not. Credit unions are one alternative that many people never explore.
Exactly.
And those interest rates can be considerably lower, and the relationship with the lender can be much less adversarial than it is with a commercial bank. Credit unions in some cases keep the commercial banks honest.
Yes.
A lot of the credit card companies offer points, though, as you mentioned, a trend is towards fewer perks, fewer rewards, and that they're harder to get.
Yes.
So I don't know that there's a trend except towards saving money, spending less, trying to avoid risk, when in fact it may be a good time to take it.
Yeah.
Whether it be to buy a car at these low prices, to buy a home at these prices, to invest in mutual funds or retirement savings. People, I know a lot of people that are so afraid to invest in the stock market, having seen roughly half of those values going away. This may in fact be a classic time to buy.
Yeah, because it's cheaper.
Right, and so unless you believe that the world is coming to an end, despite what's likely to be a rough patch for a while, then if you have a long-term view, then this will represent a good time to take advantage of saving and put the savings to good use. If you're saving money at the grocery store or your utility bills by going wireless, what are you going to do with that savings? Maybe if you're not going to spend it, you invest in your own future.
Yes, and I even noticed with credit card companies, I used to have a ton of credit card offers in the mail, and today I haven't had one in months probably. Are they just watching their butts right now?
Well, their underwriting standards are much higher, so in order to get credit, you have to be not only a good character, but and not quite Donald Trump, but you need an excellent credit score and an excellent history to get them to take the chance on you. Banks say they're lending, but they're just raising their standards for borrowers.
I see.
One thing I wanted to add, you talked about credit cards and how some of the perks are scaling back. A website that I recommend is billshrink.com. Bill Shrink is spelled just like it sounds, and they basically give you some alternatives for credit cards. So you can go on there and say, this is the kind of credit card I have now, or maybe you use one or two mostly, and you can tell it whether you get like cashback perks or airline miles, and I think you tell them your habits, like whether you pay off your bill every month or whether you carry a balance, and typically what your bill is every month, and then they'll suggest alternatives. I did it yesterday, and I have like a cashback credit card, and they said, if you switch, you could get like $1,200 something.
Wow.
So it's something just to think about. If you feel like your credit card perks are going down or the interest rates are going up, you can check out billshrink.com and just look into alternatives and see if there's another card that might have a better deal for you.
Okay. And have you noticed a difference on how many people visit your site now versus maybe a year ago?
Bargain Babe is a relatively new site. I launched it in January 2009, so I can't go back too far. But my traffic is growing, and I've definitely noticed that people are much more interested in finding deals and bargain shopping, but also talking about money has become much more acceptable. It used to be that maybe you only talked about money with your immediate family, or even sometimes then it could be a very tense issue. But these days it's common to talk about money with almost everybody. So
on the table, how much do you make?
Yeah.
So, Professor, the makeup of families are completely different now than they were 20 years ago. There's more and more one-parent families, single-income homes. How difficult is it for them to save? And how do you think they should go about trying to save when obviously they really can't?
Well, with children myself, I know that having children in general is an expensive proposition, and this environment, while it gives you some bargains, also there's inflation.
Yes.
So things, whether it be preschool or toys or gymnastics lessons, etc., it's getting very expensive. And for a single parent who's worn out at work and then comes home and has to
Cook dinner.
Start all over, get dinner ready, etc., it's a real challenge. Time management alone is a real challenge, much less financial management, particularly when you have so little time to devote to it.
Yes.
Which brings me back to the employer-based savings, where you can set it up and forget it. I don't want to steal Ron Popeil's lines here, but if you can set up a savings program at work so that you don't have to manage it or run to the bank at home, or using electronic ACH deposits, etc., this saves time and saves money and postage, and allows a single parent to devote time to those causes, notably their children. And that time has so many demands on it already. So if you can save at work, then you avoid having the chore of having to save at home while you have competing interests.
See, and I notice a lot of people are trying to put their money into things like there's these travel schemes where it's like, oh, you pay me $500 and then you have people under you. How important is it for people to stay away from things like that? Because obviously if it's too good to be true, then it probably isn't true.
Well, it's a question I ask my insurance classes. Does a fool and his or her money deserve to be parted? Because there are going to be people out there that try to part people from their money. So as you said, how important is that? It's absolutely critical that people avoid getting involved in these sorts of schemes.
And is it good to just, if you can, off your paycheck, if it's just $20 or if it's $30, is that good enough to you just throw in your savings?
Absolutely. Small amounts, whether they be thrown towards your mortgage, extra principal payments on your mortgage, or $20 or $30 thrown in a savings account or in a 401k, over time they can add up to significant amounts of money and result in a mortgage that's paid off years sooner. Okay.
And Juliet, what are just finally like some tips that people just can do all in all just to save some money?
Okay. Some top tips. I definitely recommend setting up a budget, even if you only have a half an hour. If you're pressed for time, try to set up a budget to figure out how much you really can spend every month, and if you can, save a little bit. I like to impose a 30-day wait period for any major purchase, say over $100. And then other than that, if you're looking to reduce your spending, be gentle on yourself. Maybe aim for just 10 to 15% for starters, and target a few categories, and just try to save a little bit, because if you try to change your habits really dramatically, chances are they're not going to stick. So try, save in a few areas, and then just every month maybe increase if you can.
Okay, well, that's all the time we have today. And I want to thank my guests, Professor Russell and Ms. Scott, for joining me. This is On Point, and I'm Kai Jones.